The sands of time are relentless, but ultimately illusory. Hi team, welcome back to another dose of spiritual bleach. This is part 2, developing the screen analogy a little further, namely how the character in the film relates to the screen upon which the film is being played is a very accurate metaphor for how the ego relates to consciousness. I recommend checking out the previous video first on one of these two sides. I'll put the link up there. Give that one a watch. Check that out first because I develop the points and the metaphor of this, the screen, the film being played on the screen being consciousness, the film being the Maya, the matrix, the illusory world. I developed that in the previous video. I just wanted to develop a little further, as it always seems like such a shame to develop these metaphors and to develop come to an understanding with certain metaphors if they have good explanatory power, and then just leave them and discard them. We might as well squeeze all of that spiritual juice out of metaphor that we can. So that's the purpose of spiritual bleach right here. Burn through any confusion, burn through any disambiguation, burn through any spiritual blockages if you are on this path of spiritual awakening, enlightenment, or trying to gain deeper understanding of this infinite universal consciousness model and practice our Advaita Vedanta a little further. So, the point that I almost started getting into in the last video but decided to cut it short so that I could just make more content out of it, I just like being honest, is that we upon this recognition, upon this understanding that consciousness is the screen and the movie is the Maya, the dreamed world, the world of the ego, the world of the character, we can then start to come to some very profound understandings that there's no real movie there. We can become very invested in the movie in the same way that we become very invested in a dream. A dream feels very real, does it not? Doesn't a dream feel very real? If I was to say, did you have a real dream? What would that mean? If we were to really try and understand this, it tells us something about the nature of experience. Because what you experience in a dream, we know didn't happen in the real world, but you did have a real experience. And it's kind of the same when we're watching a movie. We do what's called suspending disbelief, which is kind of a fancy way of saying we are believing in the movie. You enjoy a movie the most when you are thoroughly invested in it. When you forget yourself, you forget you're in the audience, you forget all your own troubles, you forget all of your own narratives. This is why we enjoy watching movies. This is why we enjoy stories. Because we forget our own troubles for just a short while and become invested in a different narrative. And the more heavily invested in the narrative we can become, the more we're going to enjoy the movie. Movies aren't always fun. Movies aren't always light and happy and bouncing around. There's very dark things that happen in movies. Sometimes the scarier and darker the movie is, the more invested we become in it. Isn't that interesting? Doesn't that tell us something about the nature of experience? And maybe that answers a few questions as why would the Maya contain any suffering at all? Well, why do people go and watch horror movies? Beats me. Don't ask me. I'm just the spiritual teaching assistant, right? I don't have any of the answers. So, the more invested that we become in the movie, the more we forget we are in the audience. Now, to kind of develop this in the Hindu kind of tradition of seeing the Maya as a kind of dramatic illusion, and Brahman, the observer, can do anything, essentially. So Brahman is almost like a divine audience. And, God, by God's very definition, is perfect. So what would a perfect audience do? What would a perfect watcher of a movie do? Become so invested, become so integrated into the movie itself that the audience completely forgets that it's the audience entirely. That's how good God is at observing its own creation. And now a great thing in the street seems any human nod, where moves in strange democracy the million masks of God. What if it turns out that you are one of these masks? That God got so good at overlooking its own nature, that it became so invested in a single character, it completely forgot the original substance, the original ground of being. How amazing is that? Stretched so far towards the story. Well, what an adventure. What an adventure that would be. But then upon the story becoming so confusing and convoluted, and there's just too much trouble, too much turmoil, too much strife, we must walk back to, okay, it's just a movie. Now, let's use that analogy of the screen with the movie playing upon it. We recognise then, actually, there's no real movie being played. It's just light on a screen. That's all that's actually happening. And if you didn't know any of that, when you look at a screen, the very first time you ever saw one, and you didn't know what was happening, you might think that there's people in that screen. This is this is the suspension of disbelief. You kind of believe that's what you're watching. But the reality of the situation is that you're just watching light and colour on a screen and hearing vibrations. It is the mind that interprets all of this light and colour and turns it into a story. So, how do we use that as a pointing, as a practice, as a vehicle to actually come to a felt, experienced understanding of awakening, of enlightenment? Because everything I've been saying thus far is quite cognitive, up in the concept. We need to get away from all of that because if the character figures it all out, it's still a character in the movie, and that's kind of what cognition is. Even if we figured it all out in the cognition, well, the cognition is still just an appearance within consciousness. We need to experience pure consciousness and let go of all of this thinking malarkey, what's been going on, because that's what causes all the problems, ultimately. So, pulling it all back and recognising that everything you're aware of is just light, colour, sound. Although this is like, the Maya is like the best virtual reality you could ever have. It's so powerful that you even have physical sensations and emotions, right? So that is just how amazing the Maya actually is. That's how powerful the Matrix is plugged in, right? In the Matrix, we are like, they plug right into the back of the head. So that's like the modern analogy. That's the modern version of the Maya. I always found it quite interesting that Matrix and Maya are almost similar as words. Maybe just because they both begin with M, I don't know. But Maya is M-A-Y-A and is often translated as illusion, but also another translation is magic. I thought that was quite interesting. And sometimes it's referred to, like the Maya just means the illusion that's already here. But then it's often also referred to as the magical power of God to delude God's self. Fascinating. Anyway, bringing it back to just the pure consciousness. Now, what if everything that you were aware of, from everything you can see, hear, touch, smell, and taste, and the physical sensations in the body, and all of your emotions, and all of your cognition as well, your memories and thoughts of the future, just bring it all into one singular condensed experience. It's just one single experience happening now. It is the mind that separates and divides everything up. Not too interested in that right now. Don't do any dividing. All the division disappears, all the separation disappears. No more naming, no more labeling, no more categorizing. Don't worry about any of that. Don't do any analysis at all. Draw no distinction. Draw no distinction between the colours that you can see with your eyes and the sensations in your feet. The emotional spectrum you're having is no distinction. It just is. Let it be. Just let it unfold. Just let it unfold. Let it do its thing. It's all doing its thing anyway. Why are you getting involved? Don't get involved. Just leave it. Leave everything, internal, external. Recognize that mind is an activity. Mind is not a thing, it's a doing. It's not a noun, it's a verb. Mind is a verb. So just cease the activity of mind. Just let it be as it is, and be the observer of everything that is. And by doing this, we are becoming acutely aware of the screen. If you were watching a movie, but you decided, I'm going to cease paying attention to the movie, and instead I'm just going to look directly at the screen. Maybe just focus on one part of the screen, and just, so what's actually happening here? It's just lights. It's just light. That's one of the practices we can come to. It's like, well, if I ceased making a narrative out of everything, oh dear. Cheers. That needs a clean, doesn't it? If I ceased making a narrative out of everything, what remains? Just raw experience. Just raw experience. There we start to come into a little bit of an experienced understanding of what's being pointed to here. Now, what is a movie made out of? I mean, as it's playing, as the movie is playing, what is the substance of the movie? Could the movie itself ever leave the screen? We could say, well, I can turn the movie off, but then it's no longer a movie. The movie itself, meaning your narrative and your individual character, could it ever leave awareness? In the same way, can a movie leave the screen? So, no, obviously. Could your experience of life, your conscious awareness of being, could your experience of life ever leave the conscious awareness of being? The moment it does, it wouldn't be an experience anymore. So what is experience made out of? What is the substance of experience? Bit of a noodle baker, that one. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Now, in the same way that, well, we could say, well, if I turn the movie off, then it's left the screen, but it's not really. It's just that we've just recognised that there was no movie there in the first place. It was just a screen with light and colour on it. That's exactly the same as when we go to sleep at night. That's like the movie being turned off. The screen remains. The screen is still there. The screen hasn't gone anywhere. It's the story that's disappeared. The narrative has vanished. Our interpretation has vanished. So it's just a blank screen. There's nothing to be aware of. And that's why we experience blankness. And we think, where did I go? Where did I go when I sleep? Where do I go? Where do I go when I'm unconscious? That's like the movie wondering where it goes when it's been turned off. There is no movie. There's no such thing. The movie is an illusion. The only thing that's real is the screen. So, your life, is made out of awareness in the same way that a movie is made out of a screen. Cheers. So how to wake up to this truth? Just see it. One of the greatest spiritual movies of all time, The Matrix, when that enlightened, awakened boy is speaking to Neo, and the boy is holding the spoon, and it bends this way and that, spins all the way around. He hands it over to Neo. Neo holds it, and the boy says, "Don't try to bend the spoon. Instead, try to realize the truth." And Neo says, "What truth?" And the boy says, "There is no spoon." I think that'll do for today, team. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the way out if any of that has been useful for you. And I'm sure we'll have some wonderful discussions in the comments on this one. Always welcome. There is no spoon. Thank you for doing this work. By doing this work of spiritual awakening, you are removing a huge chunk of the suffering from the common stock of humanity. So thank you. I appreciate and have gratitude for the fact that you are doing this very difficult practice and this work. I appreciate every single one of you watching, subscribing, liking, whatever it is that you do to engage with this channel. I really appreciate it. If you are feeling generous, feel free to join the channel membership. One of these buttons down here. Gain access to my exclusive guided meditations and talks, and join the Discord chat room, in which you'll find a group of like-minded individuals committed to this journey of awakening. That's everything for today. Take care, be well, and stay present.